It's only the Allianz Leagues. It's only February. Only a warm-up. Only a relegation. Only a bit of fun. It's only a debut. Only hundreds of competitive matches and thousands of players giving it their all. Only an unstoppable passion for GA across the whole nation. It's only 30 years of Allianz supporting the leagues, and we're not done yet. Only the leagues. Only the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
A grain of rice, TJ. But how are you? We're back. 2022 gets going. I know we've had a show, all right, but properly back, I suppose, with the leagues back next weekend, and great to be back with you. We'll try and keep it to the hour, which never happens, but like to welcome the guests, TJ, Ken. How are we doing, Ken?
Not too bad, Dalo. Good to be back.
Good to see you, Ken. And the Norrie now moved to the south side, Mr. Seanie McGrath. How are you, Seanie?
Good, Dalo. How are you, boy?
I'm all right, boy. I'm all right, kid. Look at that look, says Landos. Look at that look. That's a good one, TJ, isn't it? Nobody.
I don't fill the screen as big as him.
I was just thinking, you're not the Sean Mac that Reggie refers to, no?
No, that's Sean Mike.
Oh, Sean Mike, is it? Okay.
Seanie, just on that, like you're a Southsider now, yeah? You're not a Norrie anymore.
No, I've changed the accents now, Dalo. I'd have the and I have the £3.4 million mention as well on the Black Rock Road.
I wouldn't doubt you. But Reggie gives your native home in the north side a bit of a hard doom, doesn't he? And he's Reggie. Yeah.
He did a good one last week. He had the
He's after freezing.
He's after freezing, yeah.
He's after freezing. I think Reggie's he got caught there. He took the Mickey out of a camogie match between the Glen and the Piercing, the Norries, and I think now Seanie has him caught to referee a game. He's back, but you're back, Seanie?
I am. Yeah,
Reggie's going refereeing, is he? I was just saying.
I didn't think I'd lose connection with such a big house. Sorry, Dalo.
In West Clare, like, come on, kid.
We can barely pay the USB, let alone the broadband. We met him on Saturday by chance. Mary Sheehan is the chairwoman of Glen Camogie, but last week Reggie was on about the ferocity of battles down in the north side here with the Glen and Pershing under 12s Camogie playing matches. He was comparing it to the Ukraine and Russia, I think. But I think he admitted or agreed to referee a game sometime in the next couple of months between both sides. So that'll be interesting.
Get him tugged out. And don't let him out of the place without bringing him to Dino's or one of them places.
Looney's Chipper and Mayfield's finest, boy.
Ken, how are things in Tipperary? How are you? First of all, I suppose I'd have to say, we weren't talking since I was listening to Midlands radio and you had Ballyhale bait. And with Rhinos, and they come up with a way of getting there, don't they? Somehow, Jesus. I mean, I know that we talked about the Thomas's one, but your one was nearly worse.
Very similar type situation. An amazing game against Rhinos and Ballyhale was an amazing game. It was the only game that day I think that wasn't televised, and it was an amazing match because Keane, my young fella, went to the match, and I said, Jesus, I hope you get value for money now because the two Munster Club semi-finals are on TV. And he said, it better be value for money. And he went to it, but God, I can tell you got great value for money because obviously, like we had to make a statement at some stage. We had played the 19 county final win. We were very poor against. We had lost a few players and gone away. I was telling you that, but we had a very poor outing against Rathdowney Earl. So we had to make a statement after winning 3 in a row. We had to, represent obviously Offaly, but more importantly ourselves, have pride in ourselves and what we wanted. And the lads really prepared well for it. Played Kilmallock TJ, a ripper of a game in Tumilvara, and then played Ross Gray, celebrating their 50 years All-Ireland Club champions in a game 8 days before the match. So it transpired anyway that we got an awful start. So to cut a long story short, Pat Cameron tore his hamstring and Owen Cody scored a goal off the play. And by the time Pat Cameron had got to the back of the goals, they had another goal scored. Colin Finney had another goal scored. So it was 2-6 to 3 points at the water break for Ballyhale. But then
you get out the
final water break that I've experienced. In that situation, we came out in the second half. We had, psychology comes in then. You just say, look at that. It's actually a 6-3 game. Those 2 goals were freakish. Pat had to come off, taken off. We've got to get back in the horse and go again. But the lads really, answered everything they could. They gave it absolutely everything. We brought it back to 2-8 to 1-8, just at halftime whistle, and a whirlwind of a game. Then they lost the player right on the halftime whistle, Young Cuddity. So it meant it was 14 against 15 in the second half, and the second half then was a real, hammer and tongs job. Everybody got stuck in. The crowd in Tullamore really got behind St. Rhinus. We went 3 ahead, and with time up, we had a chance to make it 4. We had a great chance. And the amazing thing about these games, Pat Cameron was gone after 50 seconds. Roland Hughes, who had been left off the team and had played in all our 3 in a row games, who was a midfielder, he hadn't even sat down on the bench. And next thing we were shouting, Roland, you're on. And he came on and scored 1-2 or 1-3. It's amazing how you see yourself off a team and the next thing you're back on the team straight away after 1 minute. And he proved the point as well when he came on. He's absolutely brilliant. But we had a chance to make it 4 points, and they got a long range free. It flew in over the defence. It was 62-44, lads, on the clock, 63 minutes. And Connor was coming out. Connor probably should have claimed it, the goalkeeper, outstanding keeper. Ben had a great game at centre back, tied up TJ brilliantly. And just between the two of them, there was slight miscommunication, but Ben flew it out for a 65. And there was no need. The pressure wasn't there. And as you well know, when a 65 lands in the square, anything can shag and happen. And that's exactly what happened. Ball landed in the square and it didn't even hit the net. Just got over the line. And the rest is history. Then they came out 15 against 15 in extra time, and obviously were on fire. TJ hadn't scored until the 54th minute from play. And as you can see what he did the last day, it was so similar to the last day with us, the sucker punch just at the end. Ballyhale Shamrocks, they keep playing. They have that resume of experience behind them. They know exactly how to play out the game. But more importantly, they have the go-to players. They have a marquee forward line. Obviously, they're not firing on all cylinders. They know that. But they love Croke Park, and Ballygunner themselves will surely be a wonderful spectacle, in a couple of weeks' time.
Just to ask you on that, Ken, I was listening to Joe Troy on Midlands, as I say, radio.
The real JT.
Unbelievable excitement now in the commentary, and Genie, they're gone, and Ryan's going to beat them, what a statement. I'm thinking of you as well now, to be honest. And would you say with the 65, do lads get too caught up with, say, maybe, no, the way you're describing it, I don't think that was the case, but in my mind's eye, I was kind of thinking about it, and I was saying that you may be all focused on TJ, don't let TJ catch it, or don't let TJ get his hurley on it, and it might just create a bit of a diversion for everyone else. But by the sounds of what you're saying, that wasn't the case.
Not at all. In actual fact, there was no desperation. I have to hand it to the lads. They came out and made a statement. There is doubts there enough. The hurling, are they up to scratch? Are they up to the pace of the game? I would have felt always that the St. Ryans, the Kildurys, the Burrs of this world, Kilcormac Clydes, are well up to scratch, with the top teams. Like there was rumours a couple of years ago circulating when Offaly went back to Christy Ring lads that the Offaly champions ended up hurling in intermediate grade, which would be an absolute catastrophe because, we played the Clare teams, we played the Limerick teams, we played the Tip Cork teams, and we were well able to obviously compete with these teams. So I knew I would have huge faith in the St. Ryans' ability to play there. It was the psyche that was so important that they knew they could play with these guys. So from our perspective, there was no desperation at the end, even Dalo. We were there, we were hurling well. There was no such thing as steering the ball or going this or going that. It was just maybe a small miscommunication, between two outstanding players. And actually, TJ was under the 65 when it landed in, and he tried to scoop it up in his hand as that gloved hand he puts down to try and catch it. And it just went off his hurley, and someone actually flicked it away, and it went back across the square. Obviously, it went out the other way, but death happens in hurling. We've all been hit with sucker punches. We've been all at the good end, and unfortunately at the bad end of it. And from that perspective, I suppose with time, when I look back, the lads really established themselves well. We have one go-to guy, Dollars. He plays centre forward for us, Sean Dolan. The only regret I have is that when we got to 60, or when they got to 65, it was Richie Reid who flowed a beautiful ball in. I mentioned him afterwards, of course, a goalkeeper, a former Kilkenny goalkeeper as well. He plays centre back there. He's an outstanding hurler, but he flowed a beautiful ball in right up. The only thing that we didn't delay the 65 is that Dollars wasn't on the edge of the square, because he's our warrior. And the more we had at the edge of the square, the more guys that would have contested the ball with absolute ferocity would have meant that. But that's all in retrospect, lads. Hindsight's a great thing. The ball landed in the square. There was a huge crowd in there. And unfortunately, the flick came. And as you well know, with Ballyhale, they're well used to doing that. And they're well used to coming from behind. Dramatic circumstances. But I suppose that's sport, lads.
Yeah, and particularly it's hurling. Like, I was watching a couple of football games yesterday. Obviously, they're very tight and a lot of draws yesterday, I think. And, it's so easier to defend the football, obviously, like we even, soccer or rugby, but with a stick and a ball like that, anything can happen. And sure, they went on then, obviously, to beat Clough-Bellacalla, who probably just didn't turn up on the evening in Croker. And we'll talk a little bit about the two semi-finals there, and obviously we've next week to look ahead to the final. But TJ, you were gallivanting up around Leitrim, I heard over the weekend. Is there any truth in that rumour?
First time in Leitrim. There was first time for everything. So
you played in the league there 1 year.
I didn't play with the footballers. I suppose following on from Kenya, I was in Thurles the previous week, in fairness. Actually, you never said we're missing Marco today. Marco got invited on some tour around the world, and he didn't bring me, considering that the last couple of invites that I got, I brought him to Limerick, I brought him to Cork, and I brought him to Thurles. We got invited to see the Thomases and Ballyhale game by the lads in Tipperary. We were really well looked after. I see Ken, you have a new stadium name, FBD, now renamed in the home hurling in Simple Stadium, but we got very well looked after. So I brought him everywhere, and then he gets a fancy invite to a nice part of the world, Dalo, and I got dropped like a hot potato.
But I don't think, you see, this trip he's on in the Middle East is a freebie, TJ. He paid for this trip, you see.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Like, just some of the pictures he was showing there on the weekend. I don't know. I have my doubts. But anyway, to get back to the topic at hand.
While we're on him, we'll go back to Leitrim in a second. Like, what about the two-picker? Like, what about the two-picker?
He's fair lucky.
No, he was unlucky with the two-picker, though, wasn't he? Just the other horse that just got a run on him. And he was coming with a wet sail, like,
Anybody following the horse racing in Gordon Park last Thursday, Landers horse, the two-picker, was running in the first race. Was supposed to be out for having a look and having a tour, 25-1 early doors. Myself and Dalo were asking questions, getting very little answers. And then what happened next? Horse tanks up to the left. Finished second, just unlucky. But yeah, question marks again, Dalo.
There's question mark. There's no doubt there's question marks, DJ. And he won't tell you anyway. That's the key thing. Like, he played a poor soldier, that chap. He's outside in a 7-star hotel in Maydan anyway. So with the pool and the bar and all. He says, look, when he's describing it to you on the WhatsApp, Shawnee, he's saying, look at that look. Do you know, why do Cork lads have to say, look at that, look?
Look at that.
Do you ever watch the show Succession? Do you know the thing on Netflix or Sky Atlantic?
No, is that about a Cork fella?
No, there's this big rich millionaire family in New York. You can imagine land just flicking the fingers and looking for his bottle of Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Oh, you better believe it. That'd be him over there, I'd say. Yeah.
He was having the cocktails on the 11th floor and the swimming pool overlooking the race course. It looked very impressive now.
It did. We might try and save up a few quid each over the next 5 years and see if we get over there for a week.
See, he might bring us next year.
But you had the poor man's trip to Leitrim.
In fairness, I would have a great, obviously being in St. Thomas's for 3 years and knowing all the lads as well as I do. I went to the game and nearly exact replica of what Ken explained there happened to the St. Thomas's. Great hurling match, two clubs, incredible shape, physicality. Both teams went at it toe-to-toe. Brilliant scores and play early on. You kind of felt as the game was going on, the Thomases were getting the hang of it. They started, like, they only conceded 4 points. Like Ballyhale were 11 points at halftime. They finished with 2-15. So outside of the 2 place balls, only conceded 4 points to that Ballyhale team in the second half. So from their point of view, they did a huge amount right. But as Ken said there, like TJ Reid, brilliant shot. Probably not too many other fellas would have been able to do it. Yeah, the Thomas's boys are disappointed a little bit like Ken on maybe the defence of the last 3. And, you know, if they could go back a moment in time, I'm sure. I was talking to Kenneth, the manager of St. Thomas, who did a great job like over the weekend. They definitely would have done a couple of things different. But, yeah, incredible. And I suppose the Thomas's boys, in fairness to them, after the week that was, they decided to go on a bit of a road trip. I got the invitation from Conor Cooney, the captain, in fairness, and I was delighted to go along. So we went and we talked about the game and we had a few beverages and we were in Carrick-on-Shannon up in the great County Leitrim. And it was my first visit to there. Beautiful town, some lovely pubs, lovely places to visit. The scenery was good. And in fairness, overall, you'd have to say a great weekend. Great lads, great team. Yeah, I have my St. Thomas's glasses on. They're a rural club in South Galway. Brilliant team that they've assembled. They've had a superb 10 years, but just a disappointing week. They would have loved to have got one over in the Ballyhale boys and got back to another final, but just wasn't to be. But look, credit to them. They had some brilliant performances, some great games, and some of them are now, they've had their week off and they're going back in to join the Galway squad for the week that's coming. But I mean, they certainly represented their families and their club and their county with great pride. It was a great game, as I said. So there was some brilliant shoulders and physicality in it, and fellas landed back in their asses. They were real fucking kind of heart in the sleeve club stuff, like in great scores. But like, as I said, Ballyhale of 4 all-stars in that forward line, like, and they're just, as Ken said there, like, you know, you just, like, any one of them are capable of doing something like that, and just found a way.
I appreciate it. You invited me as well into one of the posh seats there in Thurles, but I had to watch, I suppose, Ballygunner and Schlockneal as well, and then I had Clare and Limerick in the Munster League final on the laptop. On the couch, trying to keep one eye on that as well. I won't talk too much about that now until we get on to Clare and Cork at the weekend. Shawnee, did you see the club semi-finals?
I did. I travelled to Thomas as well, Dalo.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I went up with a brother, and it was the first. Last Christmas, I was out with a couple of family members. I have an uncle he's a bit of a traditionalist, and he kind of finds the modern game hard to follow, and he calls it the offside rule, almost coming into hurling now with this sort of full forwards or corner forwards playing out in the half forward line and all that. But
it's a good thing Landers is away because he'd be looking for VAR, like.
He'd be lapping this up, would he?
Yeah.
No, he firmly believes VAR should be in hurling, like.
Yeah, it's gone hard to follow. No, I sure, look, we all love hurling and I love the modern game as much as the next fella, but my uncle said that he thinks that the modern game is better, but that the older games had better contests. And I was thinking about it the last day as I was at Thomas's and Ballyhale. For a while, I found it hard to follow him. But even though the scoring wasn't as ferocious maybe as the inter-county game now, which is plus 30 points and, you know, long distance scores, some out in the wing and all that. As TJ said there, I just thought the contest last day was incredible. Conor Cooney was like hitting a brick wall. Is it Mullen, the cornerback, tried to do him, and just Cooney got up, and in the end, Mullen, I think, had to go off with a shoulder injury. But the contest was ferocious. Like Thomas's half forward line was dominating, and Joey Holden decided to grab the game with a scruff of the neck. And from the last water break on, just the Ballyhale half back line absolutely thundered into the game.
Joey Holden, Seanie, was fantastic, wasn't he, in that piece?
Yeah, and TJ, it wasn't, when you bat the ball and get it to ground, they just cleanly caught it. They really stifled and really got on top of that Thomas's half forward line. And it was just coming back in the car. I was coming back with the brother. I said, I know what Morris is on about. No, he's my uncle. That it was a contest. As a spectacle, it was good. The hurling was, it was some fantastic skills, and TJ was in front of us for the first half. I was up at that side, and again, when you see these fellas live, like his scoring from play has probably gone back a little bit. Even with Kilkenny, it's back to maybe 1 or 2 from play, maybe just back a bit. But his overall distribution and just to play off him, his vision, I think you see it better when you're live. His movement is just absolutely pristine. But as a contest,
2 or 3 assists there, Seanie, in front of you in the first half. There were just pinpoint accuracy with the pass, wasn't it? Like, it was
pinpoint, TJ, yeah, and balls in the air that whatever he can do. And obviously, when you're physically strong, Pat Mull a couple of years ago, I was talking to Pat. He marked Shefflin in a club championship game, and I asked him, "What was it like?" And he said, "Look, I actually broke even enough for him. I did okay." But 2 things stuck out. He said, one, how vocal he was with the ref. He talks to the ref a lot, he said. But the other thing was physically, like he said, 6 foot odd, and he had a habit of putting the hurley up. And you add the length of his hurley, his hand, it was nearly 7 or 8 foot or feet to try and contest. So I suppose when you're that strong and wide for TJ, but God, live, I just thought. And obviously, like Patrick, we'd be big fans of Hoggy down here, so I see him live all the time. But to see TJ in particular live was, it would actually give you a spurt to try and get to these games more live to see what they're actually like more and more, because as a spectacle, it was fantastic.
And in fairness, Seanie, there was brilliant honesty from both teams as well, because there was a couple of hits and tackles and yellow cards, but fellas just got up and got on with it. Like there was no whinging. So there wasn't. There
was no dirt, TJ. It was.
Can I just ask you, TJ? Did they feel? I suppose I wrote a column about it, and I thought Rory McGann had a great game refereeing it, but I thought Colin cleared a bit for the penalty. Now, I know on his way down, young Head had kind of caught him by the helmet on his way down, but I thought initially that he kind of felt, I'm going nowhere here now because there's a wall of these fellas in front of me. So, we need something. And for me, that was, I know everyone will speak about the less free. And what I'd say about that is, the biggest mistake there was I played with him for so many years, Ireland's fittest family goalie behind me, saying, and you probably know this, Ken, as well, get him out of my eye line, he'd say. A fella walk across in front like Colin Findlay did. And I'm not blaming Colin at all now for whatever the penalty order. But Lohan would just catch whoever be full forward and just lob him out of the way. Like, so Fitzy had a clear line of sight at the shooter. But to see the goalie sprinting out around Findlay to get a full view of it, I just... that couple of regrets there, I'd say. And you said that, that the management would have said, I thought the penalty was a harsh enough call at the time.
Yeah, I look, in fairness to these boys, no different to most teams. They're sports people, they understand sport. There's highs and lows and ups and downs, and things go their way. And they've won games late on in the past that maybe they mightn't have been fully entitled to win, and that happens. But no, there was no whinging. You could argue that Colin did lead. He's a big man anyway. That he did maybe lead, but maybe John made this referee's decision a little bit easier. But no, 1 or 2 chances slipped away from in the second half. I suppose the overriding feeling for them was that they didn't have anybody to blame, only themselves. So as I said, they get on with it from that point of view. Even there during the season, there when I think the semi-final, there was going to be look like there could be a walkover, whatever, with the Gort situation in COVID. In fairness to Thomas's, they reached out straight away and pushed the game out. So that's the type of people they are. They're hurling people. They love the sport and they get on with it, and they'll pick themselves up now and they'll be fine. But look, I think if there was maybe one piece that they'd love to revisit, would be maybe the defence of the free. And like you said there, being in the full back line myself in the past, the goalkeeper has got to have a clean sight of that ball. You can't have somebody, and Colin Findlay's a big man now, but Thomas has have a couple of big boys as well. They needed to shift him out of there, and the message has got to come. You be kind of saying Dalo, he has to go. It would be as simple as that.
When they were talking,
I'm glad you said the penalty. The 21 should never have came. Fintan Burke had an absolutely outstanding game.
Brilliant.
TJ, no more than ourselves, TJ. We have no one to blame on yourselves. And we can't point the finger at anybody else because our lads were absolutely outstanding for the full game. But the thing about Fintan, that ball that TJ picked at the end, like, there was no need to take him to the ground. It was like as if to say, there you are now, if you're good enough, score the 21. And you're dicing with this, with the likes of Henry Shefflin in his prime, or Owen Kelly in his prime, or TJ. When you get that opportunity, you don't have to give Thorsten them out go like that. And like for TJ, he had nothing to lose. He's a savage striking the ball. Finley's so wise and old. He was going to stand in the way. It was going to go by his ear like lightning, and it was going to be so impossible to stop it. But to give away, to the situation we created, it was like ourselves, it was self-inflicted, really. There was no need to foul TJ in the first place for the 21. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose hindsight, Ken, is like we chatted about that coming out in the stadium afterwards. You'll be saying afterwards then that he is a magician now, right? Of all the people in that space, you wouldn't want to have the ball as TJ Reid. If he had a drop shot at it and put it in the net or whatever, you'll be saying then today, geez, why didn't you just foul him? Do you know what I mean? So it's a hard one. It's a hard one. But I said a good chat with Kenneth over the weekend, and in fairness to Kenneth Burke, he said he went through everything and they had every what if scenario covered. But he said to me, being honest about it, he said that in training they didn't have what if right on the actual last puck of the game that were 2 points up. Like he said, they hadn't gone through that scenario. So he was very honest about it too. But like as a coach or as a mentor, like of all the things you do, you probably wouldn't have done that one. We're 2 points up and time is up. What?
Yeah, I know. But I think again, lads, this goes back to the fact that it's then my initial question to you, Ken, about, you know, did you focus too much on Reid for the 65? And you said you didn't, and no more about it, and it just happened. Like, I just think again, Fintan had nearly beaten him for the previous 3 or 4 balls, Johnny. Fintan was playing out of his skin. Like, I just
one-on-one,
for a Henry going in now, taking on that job, Fintan looks, you know, an option for 3 if you wanted to keep Dahi Burke at 6 and things like that. But I just think it's Reid, isn't it? It was Reid, so take him down, because he there could be somebody behind me loose, and he'll get a flick across to them with one hand or something. So getting down with a nice bit out from the goal. And I just think it's the effect of having a magician like that, as TJ said.
Yeah, like TJ said it there about kind of honesty. To be fair as well, say, I'm not trying to sound like an advocate for the whole game, but there was no dropping a man back. Like, it was very much a one-on-one. We thought with 10 minutes to go, here it comes. Every ball that went in, the people around us, we ended up around the kind of Thomas's crowd, whatever way we came in, and here it is. There was no centre-back drum it back and midfielders coming back to cover the half-back line. They left it very much on your own, Fintan boy, and work it out. And like you said, he won 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And won them comfortably. The only thing is, I thought at times, he kind of opens the shoulders and lets it go. Like, I'd say if you got him into an inter-county scene and got him a little bit slicker, shorten it up and a few pop passes. But as regards a one-on-one contest kind of guy, he's as good as what's out there. But you're right, Dalo. Like, TJ didn't.
Your uncle was loving that, Johnny. And lacing it onto the field.
Rock stuff.
But there's definitely room for him in that full back line. And the way, as Shawnee said there, when a modern game has gone, right, you're nearly kind of like the full backs getting pulled and dragged all over the place. And even now, a cornerback, you are getting pulled in that 2-man full forward line. And you could easily play with 2 full backs. So if they wanted to play with Dahi and Fintan in the full back line, I think there's room.
No, Henry, we're not telling you your business now, boy. With the full back line pick for you there, kid. Ken, we might as well stay with it now that we've gone on to it. You didn't see Ballygunner and Schlockneil. Did you get a chance to have a look at that?
I did. I saw it. And fair hats off to Schlockneil without being patronising them. I thought they were very competitive. Parnell Park's a tough place to play. Ballygunner were rattled for long periods. Obviously, the goals, Billy O'Keefe's goals, one at the very start, one at the very end. That was the difference between the teams. But, you know, an outstanding performance again from Schlockneil. You know, Brendan Rodgers, what a man, like, playing full back for Derry footballers and full forward and wing forward for Schlockneil. You know, absolutely outstanding. Their scoring ratio is very good. They have always been competitive in All-Ireland Club semi-finals. Nobody has, you know, given them a hammering. They prepare absolutely brilliantly. They were on to me the following Wednesday. We won the county final. They were on to me the following Wednesday, looking for a game, you know, to meet him in Abbottstown or somewhere like that. They love their hurling, and obviously they concentrate on it totally. And they didn't go up to give a good display either, lads. They went up to win. You know, Slaughtneil went to win. I think it was a right good grounding for Ballygunner, because obviously after the sizable win against Kilmallock and the way they played and the panache they showed and the outstanding ability of all their players and of course their 6 reserves. So from that perspective, I think it was a good grounding for Ballygunner, because it means now that Darragh Sullivan has an awful lot to work on for the club final. And Ballygunner, and they're 20 minutes away from each other. It's going to be a fantastic game, but on the day, I suppose, just the slicker outfit, a little bit slicker. The 2 goals were the key difference, obviously. 217 to 18 points. Ballygunner just did enough to win, but they had one hell of a fright.
It was a very good contest, and I was kind of saying coming up to it that Parnell would be a big advantage to Slaughtneil, because Ballygunner obviously loved pace and loved the openness and all, but like watching it, Parnell was in superb shape. In fairness, John Costello don't be giving out to me now, but the state of the pitch was in great shape. But I just felt a little bit that they might have focused a bit too much on Desi Hutchinson, and that maybe left the space in for the likes of O'Keefe, and a couple of more of their forwards had very big games, and Desi still came up with his 3 brilliant points, of course, and that might have been, the bit of space that was there for the 2 goals, as you said, one at the start of the game and one at the start of the second half, and also 2 points by Conor Sheehan. The very same 2 players got the goal and the point at the start of the second half as the same as the start of the game. And that was sort of the difference. But I thought maybe if they'd over-focused on Desi, that they might have been as well off if Desi got 5 from player 6, and the other lad mightn't have got 2-1.
It's been a huge conundrum. Conor Sheehan is actually playing outstanding hurling in the middle of the field. He's the real star for Ballygunner at the moment. And they need the likes of those guys to come up to par. We know about the O'Mahonys, we know about obviously Desi and co, and obviously Stephen O'Keefe probably having his best season ever, as a goalkeeper, running the whole show in there. They look so comfortable at the back. They don't look like conceding goals at any given stage, and that's the big test, the barometer next time out against obviously Ballyhale, because Ballyhale will obviously hope that in Croke Park, and with their know-how and their smartness and Finlay and Owen Cody around the TJ, they'll be trying to orchestrate goal openings. That will really test, because Pádraig O'Mahony, the fullback, the former fullback for Ballygunner, he's captain. Barry Coughlin, yeah. Barry's going to he's going to be tested the next day. They're going to test him, Finlay and him. That'll be some battle, And Barry Coughlin is physical, but Barry had a tough day out against Slaughtneil and struggled for long periods. But he's proud. He's played in Croke Park in the All-Ireland final, so he knows what's coming ahead of him. But I think overall, Desi, you can see where Slaughtneil were coming from. He was the top man against Kilmallock. Everything. He was the go-to man. But Desi, as well as being fleet of foot, he's good in the air. He's good to make openings. He's good with assists. It's not just the scoring, conundrum he is. So from that perspective, I think overall, it's a fascinating final. Really fascinating final that we're looking forward to.
Yeah. To be fair, Dalo, Slaughtneil, they're possibly talking about the top inside forward in the game right now. Like Desi he's really, really on fire. And in fairness, he would have had to get that attention in order for them. I know hindsight again is marvelous, but setting up that way, you wouldn't knock him for it. I was going to just pinpoint 2 pieces in the first half. The one that was saved from Desi, it was just an incredible move. The only one he just jumped and doubled out in the air. That would have been just off the chart in terms of a goal. And the second one was up in the top right-hand corner. So the ball was on the ground, and see Rogers flicking the ball like you wouldn't see it in the Premiership. The way he flicked the ball in between his legs and turned back. It was just incredible. 2 pieces of amazing stuff.
Yeah, and if either had a slightly different outcome, the game could have changed it. It's a fascinating final to call, Shawnee, isn't it? Like an awful lot of lads coming in and out here now during the week, and we chatting about it. And of course, it was a huge topic of conversation, especially the Ballyhale Thomas's game, you know, the way it finished and the welter of excitement. But an awful lot of lads calling it, Ballygunner will beat them. They're on the brink. And as Ken said earlier, they're probably not going as well as other years. But I keep saying, like, and I kind of do fancy Ballygunner, I think, but you nearly want to be passing Carlow with the Tommy Moore Cup to know you haven't beaten. Like, wouldn't you? That's the other side of it.
You would. And like, they're contrasting styles of play, and at the same time they're similar, if that makes sense, because like what I noticed with Ballyhale is they have a tendency to rotate an awful lot. It's almost as if the team, with total respect, the jocks are on the sideline, but they seem to make their own calls. You know, what I noticed anyway was TJ will call it and he'll go from full to half forward, and automatically Mullen might come in. So they seem to like to have one or two up top, which is not too dissimilar to Ballygunner. So from that perspective, then, when you only have one or two on top, you're only as good as the ball that's coming in. So I think both half forwards will have huge roles to play to ensure that their retrospective half backs don't get that delivery in. Again, I went to the Munster Club final game, then the Kilmallock game, and ended up right on the full forward line in the second half. Ballygunner's full forward line, say, oh my God, like the delivery coming in, any fella that was anything related to a corner forward couldn't but score. The ball was obviously, Desi's touch is so slick inside, O'Keefe and these guys, that when they do get it, they can finish. But I think that'll be a key part. And from that perspective, like, I just wonder, will there be a ferocious grit from the half forward line? Like, Adrian Mullen isn't playing out of his skin. Like, you know, I was a little bit disappointed with the last day, but he does hang in there. And from the water break on the last, he was the kind of player that he wasn't selfish. He knew he wasn't really outscoring much. He only got a point from play. But he did a bit of donkey work and a bit of that unforeseen Hogan and McGrath stuff. And I think, again, the next day, he'll be the kind of fella that will put it into the face of the Ballygunner half-backs and let them know, you ain't clearing this too easily, buddy, and make it hard for that ball coming out. And I think from that point of view, while everyone will say, yeah, and I'd say the same, my immediate reaction would be Ballygunner are a bit slicker, and maybe they wanted a bit more. They haven't won that coveted All-Ireland final that this team feel they should have won over the last number of years. But as Ken said, when it came to the Ryan's game, when it came to the last day, like, they had no right to win the Thomas's game, no right whatsoever. But they just have this ferocious grit, determination, almost faith in each other's confidence in each other's type of play. They know at the water break, if we're anywhere close to these fellas, we have a chance. So just from that perspective, I can't believe I'm saying it, because after the Kilmallock game, again, walking out, I went to it on my own. I intentionally went on my own because, like, I know Ballygunner more. We played them a fair bit in club games and practice games.
You didn't want the uncle and nine you either, as well.
What?
You didn't want the uncle and nine you.
I couldn't be listening to about
Sorry, Uncle McGrath.
Sorry about that, kid. But I don't know, Dalo. Like, I do think Ballygunner, skill-wise, touch-wise, movement-wise, like, Desi is one of the best players in the game at the moment. Just McGrath, time of the year, Graft. I could see Ballyhale snaking it again, to be honest.
You're a traditionalist, Shawnee.
I wouldn't mind. But like, when we were in your own playing day, Jesus, I did quite the opposite. Never listened to an instruction or anything.
I was going to say that you didn't really follow instructions either, kid. On forward, wing forward, you were back around
to see what happens.
Yeah.
And Dalo, you could say Croke Park would suit both teams, couldn't you? Like, in fairness,
you could.
I think, like, Ballyhale obviously are home at Croke Park, and I think the way Ballygunner moved the ball, Shawnee, down in the park, like, it was fierce impressive against Kilmallock. Like, the good side really suited their style of play. Like, so it's set up perfectly. We actually forgot to mention Shane Cooney. This in the back was out for Thomas, who was a big loss to them, Dalo, but massive loss. Huge in my brings to the team, and I wish Shane the best luck, and hopefully he can get back for some bit of Galway season. He had an operation, but to be fair to Ballyhale,
just to have to say it, like, Ronan Corcoran was missing as well from midfield for Ballyhale, and he was outstanding like all year.
I know and Reid. That's what I was going to say. Is I suppose for both sides is to have their full squad, but you have teams who can score. I think it'll come down to goals. I think whichever defends better and whichever can get the breakthrough. Like, Ballygunner coughed up a couple of goal chances the last day, and maybe against Kilmallock. So if they do that against this forward line, geez, you could be in bother. And then up the other side, go back to what Shawnee said there. Outside of getting the really good ball in, Shawnee, the movement of the boys inside, like they were just constantly moving and creating that bit of space. Like, so really, really intriguing. Are we looking at Joey Holden and Desi?
Could be, I suppose. Yeah, could be. I'd be, if I was Joxer, as you call him, Johnny. I'd be ringing Paul Kinnerk to know what kind of a system they come up with to stop Desi when Limerick meet him, because it's the only time really I've seen him being stopped. He's been that good. I think our own lad,
Johnny Finn.
Your lad obviously Johnny Finn, but our own lad from Wolf Tones, Young Hayes, did a great job in Clare Waterford last year. Right, he's a good cornerback now. How would you see it panning out, Ken? And it's very impossible to call, obviously.
Possible to call. I think you're listening to it below yourself, Dalo, what men are saying there. And they're fairly right in the fact that it's now Ballygunner's time. I think they're at their peak now. They have a huge setup there as regards players to call upon, inter-county players and the substitutes. They have 6 players they can bring in, as well as the guys they have. And I think you mentioned goals there, TJ. I think it's going to come down to the situation of what's going to happen from the point of view. I think Stephen O'Keefe, to me, and I suppose I'm championing the goalkeeping situation here myself, I think he's been close enough to the Club Hurler of the Year. And if he produces the performance that he's been producing up to now, I think it will have a huge bearing in the game, because Ballyhale, whether we like it or not, they rely on the 3-pointers the whole time. They'll go for the 3-pointers. If Fennelly sees the net, he'll head for it. If Owen Cody sees it, he'll go for the percentage. He'll go to bury the goal. TJ the same. So if Stephen O'Keefe continues in the vein of form he is, he's playing the hurling of his life. The shackles are off. He says he's retired from inter-county hurling. But by God, from that point of view, you need players playing at the top of their game. And when you have your number one playing in that type of humour, it means it's huge for the backline lads. It's huge for the whole team, because he just lifts the team every time he makes that save or makes that dash from the goal. So it's going to come down maybe to both the keepers. Obviously, the Ballyhale keeper Dean as well. Dean Mason, he's very solid, very sound. But in Croke Park, goal opportunities do arise, and it'll be just a question of who can nab the vital scores at the vital times. I think it just could be Ballygunner's day.
Yeah, and we're probably given we've given Henry advice on his full back line, so we've given Liam Cahill a bit of advice as well on his goalkeeping. Get on the phone there next 2 weeks' time, Liam.
Dalo, just on the goalkeeping, are we seeing a bit of a change in puckouts, right? I think this time last year when we've been talking about it, we've seen load of sharp puckouts, right? Whereas now, I think all these keepers are trying to fire it longer into space, or trying to find that guy who wins the ball. I think we're seeing a shift. It'd be interesting to see the Allianz League coming up now as to whether that continues. But I'm definitely seeing in the games I've gone to less and less ball going to that free cornerback. They're trying to push that puck out up the field.
Yeah, but like I would have said early on in the game, watching it, Thomases were getting great joy from going long. They necessarily weren't winning it clean, but they were breaking it and they were getting onto the breaking ball. And I said that was a game plan. But I thought the longer they kept doing that, as Shawnee said, the Ballyhale
came into the game.
Started, the ball just kept coming back at him. I don't know, it'd be interesting, as you said. I mean, I watched the Clare Limerick match as well. I mean, Limerick's, I suppose we'll talk about that as well. Limerick's strength in depth is sort of incredible at the minute, but they were mixing it up a huge amount, and obviously, didn't even have their regular goal. Nicky wasn't in goal even, So it's the league will tell us a whole pile, but we'll look forward to what we used to say St. Patrick's Day, but we look forward to the club finals in a couple of weeks, and of course, interestingly, this weekend as well, we have the intermediate and the junior final with Kimoily versus Naas and Ballygiblin and Monkine. And it should be a great day. I'd love to go, but I think I might be going to Clare and Cork down the park. So that might scupper me, but try and get a look at it somewhere near. But by normal, I wouldn't mind any of the teams winning, especially the intermediate, with the Kildare team and the Kerry team. But I have, of course, the connection with Kilmiley, so I'd love if they went all the way. But obviously, there's no doubt that Naas have invested a huge pile in underage hurling. I know from my time with Kilmacud that they used to say at around under 14, 12, 14, 15, Naas could beat everybody around Dublin, Kilkenny, so obviously that's coming to bear fruit for them. So that should be a great game to look forward to.
And I have the vested interest there, Dalo, on the Naas side, because
Yes.
of buddy Owen Stapleton, who's been doing great work in Naas and Kildare for a long time now, and he's been telling me about this. It's their first time in the Ireland final, so it's massive for both clubs and great opportunity to play in Croke Park. So yeah, interesting one there. We might have known
in fairness to Owen, we enjoyed his company here in Murty Brown over the summer.
We might have a wager on that one, Dalo, between us, maybe an old drink.
Okay. Gentle tenor, TJ.
Gentle tenor, yeah. But great game for both clubs to look forward to. And as well as that, I have a vested interest in the other one as well, because my sister's living in Ballygiblin, Johnny. So they are just really gone mad, and you can see even some of the stuff going on there. So huge for them as well. A great opportunity. And I've said before, great for the junior clubs and these clubs all around the country where they have an opportunity where they're possibly never going to be able to get to where a Ballyhale or a Ballygunner are, but this is their day in their own right. So for the clubs, the 4 clubs the weekend, brilliant to be bringing all your parish, your community, and your families to Croke Park. What an opportunity!
Yeah, I remember a good few years ago now. Obviously, lads, I was with the Dubs and we were playing a league game. We were playing Tip and Thurles or something like that, and I went up and stayed in the Louis Fitzgerald the night before because we'd leave from there, if you know what I mean, the hotel, to go to bait down to Thurles. So be down with him on the bus and that. But the junior and intermediate club finals, I don't know, I can't remember which Cork club was in it, Shani, but
yeah,
Jesus, the hotel was booked out with them. They obviously decided we'd stay together, and they were going into one of the Dublin team. We'd say we had a meeting room, but there's a lot of meeting rooms upstairs in the Louis Fitzgerald, but they were going up to have mass.
Yeah.
With the team and with the whole parish, and geez, they were everywhere, and it is fantastic for the clubs, isn't it? Dream come true to be going to Croke Park.
It is brilliant, and I suppose even back to TJ and the Ballygiblin connection, the fanfare up there, Mark Keane was due to go back to Australia, and I'd actually say that the whole homeboard stuff, the whole feeling of the village, the community, and what the Munster Club First did, and now the All Ireland series, I'd say that draw has almost enticed him to stay around. And obviously with Kieran coming on board then and getting him involved with the Cork panels, all that has added to it. But look, Ronan Dwan, who Ronan was on our panel in 99, we call him Swanee. He's looking after the team, and he's left his hair grow. He looks like our Lord now. The hair is coming way down. And I think the slag is...
as well. I might do that.
I see we waiting there.
A little Malik show.
I'd say our Lord even couldn't perform that miracle, but the slag is that maybe Swanee will cut the hair if they win, so please God they do, because he looks cat.
Swanee, cut your hair. I put up a tweet watching the football yesterday with the goalies coming out as these fly keepers now. Get into goal. Can you imagine an old day with your uncle there now, the traditional? If you saw a goalie going past you on your wing back,
yeah. Actually, did you
going
see
past you?
TG4 were getting a bit of stick over the camera stuff, but the camera that they went to behind the goal wasn't that
brilliant,
a lot of them.
It was brilliant. The high behind, it was incredible.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Some view of it.
It was like Storm Desmond.
Yeah.
Fairness to the cameraman, But Ken, the thing about the junior final is the Kilkenny junior and intermediate teams do be savage strong. They're a bit like the Kerry junior and intermediate champions because they don't have as many senior club teams. They keep their senior nice and tidy. A lot of counties trying to get back to 16 teams and seniors. But that's the directive from Croke Park. And my own little club, lucky to stay out of relegation trouble on a technicality. But they do have savage junior and intermediate teams Ballygiblin obviously a major role, but not a word about Monkine really.
Yeah, I'm only an hour from Kilkenny, so I would have had the pleasure of going to Kilkenny finals. Mick Murray of Coolderry, a great Coolderry man and father, Damien Murray, that played with Coolderry and Offaly. He absolutely consumes Kilkenny hurling every county final he's been at. But I had the pleasure of going down to a few county finals there, and the intermediate final beyond before it, or the junior final, the Magpies and the Black and Whites and Monkine and Piltown and Lisdowney. Lisdowney, an outstanding team, couldn't get up out of senior, and absolutely top class. We'd be there with our mouths open watching intermediate finals, the standard of hurling in it, and of course you had a situation where Dunnamaggin won a Kilkenny county final, and a couple of years later were relegated. I think there's only 2 years later they were relegated to Hickeys and Co. And then you had obviously the great Tommy Walsh, Tullerone. They spent so much time down at intermediate level after being relegated and found it so hard to get back up. So we know it ourselves in Nora at this stage that, when you go back down, it's a tough struggle to get back up. So from that perspective, the standard, Kilkenny hurling standard, is top notch. I don't know, Sean, you know more obviously about the scene at junior and intermediate level in Cork, and of course you have the Premier Intermediate. So from that perspective, the Kilkenny, the standard of hurling in Kilkenny is very strong. Now, there is a situation like the senior team in Kilkenny that maybe there is a bit of a slackening off. Maybe the standard is not as high as it was. So I'm sure Ballygiblin won't be phased by that, and they're looking forward to going to the Hallett Turf in Croke Park.
You can have a tenner on that too. You're taking one kind of Johnny. It's not a gambling show. This you have to change it to the Allianz gambling show.
Actually, Dalo, on that point there, I seen Galway the weekend. Thomas's man Claude, a good buddy of mine, he's actually got in as director of hurling actually up there in Galway. But they have 24 senior teams, right? So I think the challenge in Galway, I think over the next 1 to 2 years, is to reduce that to 16, right? So can you imagine the relegation that's coming down the track for teams in Galway to try and get maybe that reduced by 8 teams over 1 or 2 years? So 8 teams relegated. So yeah,
because of the technicality in Clare, and we were very lucky because we didn't win any match in the thing. We were bottom of the table, and we probably should have gone, but it's our fault that the competition is null and void. Crusheen objected that they were going down on scoring difference, and you couldn't be relegated, and the Munster Council upheld that. So now we've 18 senior teams, so there's 2 to go this year, 22, and 2 to go the following year, and obviously 1 coming up from intermediate. So I'd say the intermediate clubs are delighted. Who's down there at the moment? The likes of Tulla, Dora Bearfield, and a couple like that. But there's a few clubs that are very disgruntled, and there was a lot of objecting going on. And we didn't say much about it anyway. I'm not saying anything about it now either. Right? We know how lucky we are, but a bit like other things. No one gave me a medal in '98 for the whistle being blown early, like in the semi-final. So it's just one of those things, just an anomaly, I suppose. And we got out of jail there. But yeah, you just said, can you imagine the Galway relegation, 8 teams to be going like in 2 years? A couple of years. Yeah, it's a Croke Park directive, I think, that 16 senior teams. So yeah, it'd be vicious enough, and as Will and Clare as well. Just on that, Johnny, with your uncle. One of my buddies, we got about the old hurling, and we couldn't hurl at all. So we were just kind of got fit running up hills and stuff. One of my buddies, I think it was Hickey, sent me the highlights of. It was about a 12-minute highlight clip. I put it up with TJ and Mark and Larry on our old WhatsApp page of your semi-final with Offaly in '99. Yeah. Jesus, the hurling in it, like, and the scores. And there was no goal, I don't think, but there was the scores from play just incredible on the day. And I suppose it was the last real kick of that Offaly team. But by God, they went down with their boots on, didn't they?
There was something else there, yeah. Brian Whelan had an incredible game. Actually, one of the most, probably the most marquee moment, and probably the most replayed part of the game was a wide. I think it was, or maybe it was disallowed score. John Troy dispossessed Brian Cochran, and he put it over the bar actually, but it was pulled back for some sort of an infringement earlier. But they kept his vision, like Cochran, I think, was mid-picking, and Troy came in and just snatched it from him, maybe from his right hand, and then threw it up on his wrong hand and struck it over the bar. God, he was an absolute joy. He was gifted, wasn't he? Oh, he was something else. And funny enough, you mentioned it because on YouTube, I'm getting all these feeds, all old league games coming up on my YouTube feed at the moment. And they showed an old Kilkenny and Offaly league game in 97. But like that, like John Troy, he used to get his 2 or 3. I don't remember him being a terribly heavy scorer, like 2-5 or 2-6 or any of that. But all his scores were magical scores. And in the same league game, he only got 2 or 3. But the 3 of them were the best scores you'll ever see.
Unbelievable, yeah. I think I like that. There's clips coming up on mine as well. TJ, one of the ones that came up the other day, well, he's just gone there, TJ, we have to lose him for a sec, but it was 1997 in the league. ourselves and Limerick in the Gaelic grounds. 25,000 people was the official attendance. Sweet Jesus, like, you know, the mad. They showed the lad from the Piercy, getting Dave Hennessy was his name, getting a goal.
Yeah,
TJ was in the forwards at the time. I think TJ kind of flicked it on, and I was in no man's land anyway. I'm not sure was I marking him or Brian Lohan was marking him, but he appeared on his own anyway. Inside and buried it. But,
but TJ, John tried to gash on. You mentioned John. John played in the goals in the 87 All-Ireland minor final, won a minor All-Ireland goals, and then played in the 89 All Ireland against Tipperary in the goals.
Okay.
And he always said that Tip won it by a pint, but he always said if John had been out the field, but John was so easy going. The only reason John went out the field was then because Jim was in the goals for Offaly. So John had to go out the field, and John didn't fancy this at all, like all this hardship out the field.
Jim definitely wasn't going out the field, Ken.
The best pair of wrists that we've ever seen John try, you know, and absolutely outstanding her. But the gas thing about it was, you mentioned about TJ and Owen Cody, these fellas switching the whole time, Shawnee. That semi-final, and you mentioned 98 there, Dalo. Like Joe Erity was playing full forward, John was playing centre forward. Neither of them 100% fit, or neither of them race horses. But when John would be tired, when he after get Joe would go out centre forward, and John would go in and line the hurler full forward, and then Joe would get tired and did switch, and it was telepathy between the two of them, and they were such outstanding hurlers. And you mentioned John trying Brian Whelan, but Joe Erity, what a hurler! He was an absolutely unbelievable hurler as well. Again, never 110% fit, but by God, give him the ball, the wrist, and the hurling. And of course, like Brian Whelan, was equally capable of playing on the forwards and the backs. You know, absolutely brilliant.
Well, sure. We were on about the Ballyhale lads maybe making their own switches, Ken, but like that 3-game saga we had with the Offaly boys in '98, and Michael Bond obviously came in for Babs and did a tremendous job, and was a lovely, unassuming man to meet him afterwards and all that. But like, I remember Whelan just bringing himself up into the forwards. He just said to Joe, go back. I'm going up. I should have decked him or something, I think. Whelan was some forward as well as one of the greatest wing backs. But Larry, there's no need to be putting up smart comments there on the feed there that every show 98 gets a mention. We often mention the Tip victory, especially when Ken is on with us as well, Larry.
TJ, you took a water break there, TJ?
I took a water break, just kind of just to see him out.
Water breaks are gone, TJ.
Which means we're in trouble, Dalo, like apparently.
What?
Which
water breaks?
Limerick are in trouble because the water breaks.
Oh, you won't be able to bring out the board at all, no. Kinnerk, if you're listening, kid, you're in trouble now. You're going to have to plan some performance at half time. Lads, I suppose, look, it's back to the league at the weekend, and you know, Allianz again as sponsors and sponsoring the show for us, and delighted to have them on board. I'm just going to I'll ask you first, Ken. Like, we start the championship this year on the 16th of April. So does the dynamic change a bit? You know, we had the league, and then we had a break probably, and then there was the April for the club month, and that never really worked, I don't think. But now the dynamic now is different, isn't it? We're going to be finishing the league and nearly straight at it in terms of the setup and the round robin, obviously back in Munster and Leinster as well. So would, as a manager, and TJ as well yourself, like as a manager, does your thinking change a bit? And do you need to be hitting the ground running, or do you need to be saying, no, we'll get it right for April? And I suppose that was always the challenge, was get it right for the championship.
Yeah, I don't think, and it was always the way it's right, but I don't think any manager can take a chance and say, we'll get it right for April. I think you need to hit the ground running. Now, we've an unprecedented, I suppose, spell of weather up here anyway, lads, in January, and the fact that you'd actually had to be out training every Sunday morning because the weather's been so mild and so beautiful, but you're going to get a hell of a bad spell now, probably in February or March, which will militate against good hurling, particularly. I think teams will be on their guard. I think teams will have to go out, you know, and stay, you know, try and make a statement, because it's hard to believe. Like, I think it's Easter Sunday, isn't it? That's mid-April, that April 16th. Like, it's incumbent on also that every county that their pitches are in pristine order for April, because we've all played club hurling in April, and as you well know, we've had some shitty Sundays and Saturday evenings when we played, and the pitches weren't good. It was mucky, it wasn't pretty. So from that perspective, we're by no means into summer hurling in April. So from that perspective, the National League, we'd always say, when the grounds speed up and when the ball starts flying again, as you were mentioning yourselves earlier, lads, that things will work out. But it could be, a pure grapple. It could be a pure dogfight. Come, Walsh Park with Tip and Waterford, the pitch mightn't be great. The ball mightn't be moving. It's not actually summer hurling until you're hoping, obviously, June, July. The big stadia are going, the pitches are going to be top notch. But some of the pitches that you're going to come across in February and March in the National League are going to be maybe similar to what you're going to encounter in April. So the point I'm making is, I think all teams will be absolutely raring to go, I think, next weekend. Like, it'll be February, next month is March, and then you're into April, you're into new time. So from that perspective, you just take the Tip situation. We played the Munster League. We didn't get a good result against Kerry. People, said, "Oh, right, that happened. There's no big deal about it." But I think it's so important for Tip to get a good start next weekend against Laois. And that's the first game that I suppose we're discussing. I know that Cheddar has put his backroom team together. I know that Clough-Ballacolla lads just got the bare week off after the Leinster Club final. He's playing from a full hand, so he knows that game next Saturday evening in O'Moore Park in Portage is a big game for them. A chance to turn over maybe a Tipperary team that's not playing at full strength because of the Loughmore situation, because of a number of players being in limbo at the moment. So I think it's important for Tip to blood new players, but it's also an important game to win.
Yeah, hugely. And I suppose, it was only the Munster League, but of course people will still, if they got off to a bad start against Laois down on top of the Kerry match, like, it's tough in on Cullum, because talk starts to build, and I see actually there during the week, Ken, that he must be a mature student at this stage, but Bonner was back playing Fitzgibbon Cup, so he's obviously back in Fettle.
He's doing a course. He's doing a business course in DIT. So from that point of view, it was absolutely fantastic that he's back playing a full game. Like, for a guy that hadn't been injured, he was like rubber, absolutely brilliant. He's after picking up two very nasty injuries with the cruciate ligament injury, and then of course the Achilles tendon, which is the worst of all. So absolutely thrilled to see him back. I think he is still an important part to play with Tipperary. The one thing about Bonner, he won't lack for endurance. He'll be absolutely in top-notch shape. And I think it's an important part of that Tipperary setup. Huge loss last year. Huge loss to Tipperary and to our club as well, Laura. So from that perspective, great to get a game under his belt. I don't know, is it coming too soon for Laois, but I'd say he will play some part in it. And Tipperary need warriors like Bonner. We lacked that warrior attitude last year. The ball wasn't being held up front. We need guys, go-through guys that can win hard ball, take on defence, and of course that are respected by the other counties. That's important as well, and I think Bonner has that respect.
Yeah, 100%. And Shawnee, while everybody got a look at Clare being well beaten by Limerick and brought back down to earth, I don't know if we have to lose you there, Shawnee. You're frozen. You're there. You're there, yeah.
I was falling asleep there. You were droning me on.
Yeah. You didn't bother showing up at all for the Munster League. You went off on holidays and things, so I suppose you'll have a big kind of ambush ready for us in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday evening.
Yeah, I suppose Cork were in Tenerife for a couple of weeks. A couple of lads involved with UCC. UCIT are playing next Thursday night. So it's a very congested kind of calendar for inter-county managers to be dealing with at the moment with the Fitzgibbon. I'm an advocate of the Fitzgibbon now. I think fellas should be allowed to play it. Played it myself. I loved it. It's a fantastic competition. I went up to the UCC and UCD game last Wednesday night. And Mark Hugh was in top form, Ken. He was really, really slick. He got 1-6 from play. And CIT are playing, I think they're playing GMIT this Thursday night. But yeah, like Cork haven't had many outings. They did play UCC in a practice game. The Cannon Cup game. I think they played Tip in a practice game lately. They might have played Wexford. But I suppose, just the bigger thing, I just heard Keith Ricken yesterday. Cork got a heavy defeat in football against Roscommon, but he spoke about the new setup and the back room and people getting used to the new back room. Like, I've counted of the 6 teams that'll play, there's probably a shake-up with at least half of them, I reckon, with 6 of them. And Cork are no different there. Like, the is the focal point, and everyone talks about the manager, but there's been a few big changes in the Cork back room in the last couple of weeks. Noel Furlong and Pat Mull have come in. 2 really good guys. Furlong, who did great work with the underage, and Pat, who was a brilliant player and has done some super incredible work with Newtown Chandram over the last few years. So, like, for Cork and all the other teams that have backroom changes, you know, it'll be a big outing for all of them, and I think it'll be a case, like Ken said, like, you know, bad weather coming, but you still have to hit the ground fast, and players will have to get used to new styles and new setups. So from Cork's perspective, it's a case of, you know, just getting that blend right. I'm hearing that they're going to give some of the younger lads a go. No, I'm not so sure what that means. Does that mean the Shane Barretts, the Padraig Powers, who are stepping up from the under-20s, will get a bit of game time? I have no problem with that. To TJ's point, Mark Keane, are they going to give him, well, obviously not Sunday, but like beyond this weekend's game, are they going to try and find more of a focal point in our half-forward line? Shamie Hardy is still playing great stuff, but do they need to get something different from our half-forwards? Robbie Flynn is a great half-forward. Luke Mee can play out there, but are they going to go with that 6'3", 6'4", and have an aerial bombardment down on top of him? So from Cork's perspective, I think there's a good bit of work to be done this league campaign, and a bit of searching and finding to be done. But it'll be a great contest, Dalo. It's 5:00 down in Park Keefe with the footballers on after. There was 7.5.
Will we stay for that?
Huh?
Will we stay for that?
You can stay at my place after. I'll put you up and everything. There'll be no harm there. I give you a bed and board. Cheap enough.
The Blackrock Road.
It won't come cheap, Dalo, but we'll give you a bed and board. But there'll be a great atmosphere. Like the Dyke last Wednesday night was hopping. God, both sides, the ground was absolutely hopping. So I'd say fellas are saying there could be 15,000 down there on Sunday. It's a double header with the footballers on after. So lights coming on. It'll be a great atmosphere, I'd say. Yeah,
looking forward to it now, I have to say. And TJ, just on that, like, as a manager, I'd have to say with the Dubs anyway, and with Clare, I suppose there's many lads involved when I was with Clare. Maybe they were a kind of an older setup at the time, but I used to say to the boys, like, you know, that this is your Walsh Cup now, lads. If you're playing for UCD or DIT or whoever they were playing with, I'll be there to watch it. But don't be telling me that you didn't play well because UCD weren't going well or DIT weren't going well. This is your Walsh Cup. I used to say, no, I won't be playing you in the Walsh Cup. I won't be asking you to play Wednesday night and again on Sunday. And that's the way I used to do it. I never asked Liam Rush to play in the Walsh Cup or Peter Kelly or these guys, you know, because they were playing colleges, and I went to see their colleges matches, and I used to love those colleges matches on Wednesday. Like they were, you know, helter-skelter matches, and I always tried to give them that space. I appreciated that competition, that they were getting to play at a huge standard, and you were going to see them then on really top-class inter-county players as well from other counties. How did you look at it now when you were with Limerick?
Yeah, like we're looking at something different now, Dalo. I think back then you could look at it. You didn't play championship until maybe late May or June or whatever. So I don't think it was as big a factor back then. Like, just to look at some numbers, right, in terms of weeks and stuff, right? From next Sunday, the league final is 9 weeks away, right? So you could have 7 games to get to a league final. So it's 9 weeks. The first round of the championship is only 11 weeks away, right? And even to go even madder again, right? The All-Ireland final is fixed for Sunday, July the 17th, right? From next Sunday, that's 24 weeks, right? So you could potentially have 14 games. So this is all going to happen really, really, really quick. So just as Shawnee's point about new management teams or different people involved, right? You ain't going to get a whole lot of time to think here, right? And as well as that, what this also presents is there ain't going to be much room for training in this space, right? Or maybe kind of real high-intensity training, like we can go away and put a block together, right? So that's going to be interesting. The Fitzgibbon guys managing the load there is going to be a key factor for the S&C guys as to what can play or who can play, because like if there's 7 games potentially in the league and you throw in 3 or 4 or 5 Fitzgibbon games, you definitely don't want guys, well, certainly top-notch first 15ers playing that many games in winter conditions. The other factors here in the league are Tony Kelly looks like he's going to miss the league for Clare, right?
Yeah.
Chef,
And Ed McCarthy is out for the year, like.
Is he out for the year? Okay.
Massive
blow. Well, right? Cody won't have that Ballyhale factor, certainly for the probably first 3 games, right? Then you get the Ballygunner boys. Like, I think if Ballygunner could win the All-Ireland club title, I think that would do a huge amount for Waterford confidence. Like Ken was saying there about how important it is for club teams to go out and represent your county, and just to give that feeling that we are at the cutting edge here. I think if Ballygunner were to go on and win the All-Ireland club title, I think it would do huge for Waterford hurling. And the last factor here is I think there's a huge appetite and hunger among supporters. Shai touched on could be 15,000. Having all these people back, big crowds at matches, maybe some of these winter condition contests. I think we could be in for a really, really good Allianz League coming up. I think some of the games you're going to see plenty of the first 15, first 20 players playing. And to go back to your initial question is, I don't think you're going to see as much of the having a look as we might have seen in the league in previous times. I think by the time the first round championship comes here, it's coming quick. I think these new management teams will want to know their first 20 players. So that's what's in store for the next 11 weeks. And look, there isn't that many spaces for huge training. And I'm just thinking, Dalo, if you were in a league final, which the league final is fixed for the 2nd or 3rd of April, if that didn't go right for you, you have a 2-week turnaround to the first round of the championship. Do you want to be in the league final?
Yeah, that's a question. All right. I tell you, my first year in charge of Clare there, a week before we played Waterford, the league final was on, and Galway beat the lard out of them inside the Gaelic grounds. And I said, jeez, we were flying it, like, and we'd nearly taken a dive in the semi-final. And, jeez, they beat the shite out of us in Thurles the following week. We were set up for it, I think, and of course they had a great team back in 2004 as well. And we've 2 groups of 6, 1A with obviously the games at the weekend, Galway and Offaly. Great to see Offaly up there again, and the 2 Ballyhale legends will be meeting on the sideline again. Wexford and Limerick and Cork and Clare, and then in 1B you have the Dubs and Waterford, Laois, Tip and Kilkenny Antrim. So as you say, TJ, it's hard to know the dynamic of the whole thing. Who would you think, lads, would be wanting to win it? And I think everyone would want to win it. And I think Limerick have shown last couple of years, win as much as you can while you're there and keep winning, and you put doubts in everybody's heads. Like, but who would you think would be set up to win it? John Mullane, my old buddy John Mullane, thinks Waterford are a good bet. That Liam will want to win the league. He'll want to get a trophy under his belt. And yet, in my mind, I suppose this match in Parnell Park, because the Dubs have been on fire in the World Cup, and Matty looks to have settled on a good few positions, obviously going into his 4th year. And I think that match on Sunday is pivotal, like Parnell, the Dubs and Waterford. I think that's huge in that group. You'd fancy, I suppose, Tip maybe to overturn Laois and Kilkenny to overturn Antrim. So I think that Dubs-Waterford game would be pivotal in that group, Shani.
Yeah, it'll be a huge game. I suppose the Dubs last year, I kind of predicted that they mightn't have had the best year, say. And then they went on and they contested a Leinster final and did okay against Cork after in the championship.
And even after the COVID thing as well for the Leinster final was very tough on them, the 4 lads ruled out.
They performed admirably against Cork as well in the championship after. It was a couple of late rallies that got Cork over the line. I suppose the whole Waterford piece and the whole Liam Cahill connection is interesting, Dalo. Again, Ken would know way more than any of us, but I did think the rumblings off season and the talk, and after having a decent innings with Waterford last year, that he was set up for almost a Tip job, and it didn't happen. Obviously, Colin Bonner's in there, and he's an experienced and a brilliant man and a great player in his day. But I just wonder how aggressive did Tip go for him, and was it as much Cahill wanting to stay with Waterford? Does he feel that they genuinely have a chance of winning an All-Ireland title? They'd be a team to me that will go, pardon the pun, but go balls out and try and win this National League. I think the gap, and TJ's so right, and the load and getting the physical conditioning right. I mean, teams have even gone down to taking that sports psychology stuff so seriously. Cork have gone for Gary Keegan. I see Tony Oga's gone in with Offaly. Like, there's a reason for all that. We're all amateur guys doing this on an amateur basis, play the game on an amateur basis. So in addition to what TJ is saying, fellas have load to manage and work as well. We don't have that recovery on a Monday after the heavy weekend. So the whole sports psychology thing has gone so serious. It goes to show where our game has gone. I don't know. I think the way it'll be set up and the way Cahill might have Waterford set up and all the other teams is that bring on the games, get the victories, get this psychological thing into our heads that winning will breed this confidence. And I could see Waterford being a dark horse in this National League. I think Cahill will go, as I said earlier, balls out. I think they'll beat Dublin, and I could see them ultimately winning that group. Like Antrim and Laois with respect, Tip coming through that bit of transition and getting used to Colin Bonner. Kilkenny are always going to be a dark horse, but in that 1B, I could see Waterford really giving it a go. And as TJ said, if Ballygunner, even though I've tipped Ballyhale, if Ballygunner do get that win and he gets those Ballygunner fellas in later in the campaign, you know, that confidence and the buzz that will happen in the county if they win an All-Ireland club title, I could see Waterford being a dark horse for ultimate honours down the line in championship, but certainly for league honours. I could see them having a good stand yet.
Yeah, fair call. You agree with John Mullane on that. I think the Dubs might do them in Parnell, and I think they could still be the top two, of course, to come out of the group. Ken, could you pick a winner, or who do you think would want it the most? In Galway and the other division as well, Henry will be anxious. You know, as TJ alluded, the Thomas's boys now are back after a little break, small break a week, and they hadn't. You know, he had a look at a lot of lads in the Walsh Cup games, but he'll be probably playing Offaly now the weekend. You'll see a more familiar look to the Galway team. Obviously, they have to introduce. They are in a bit of transition as well. With some retirements and all that, but obviously Henry will be anxious to get it going and get on. You know, when you're going in there first into county management job, you want to go well.
Yeah, I think they're a very good game set up. Obviously, Offaly, you know, are finding their feet. Delighted to be back up in Division 1B. I think Mick Finley's doing a good, solid job there. He's a solid group there. I went in and watched the Walsh Cup game live, Dublin and Offaly. I think Dublin, TG, you mentioned about the puck outs. Dublin have Crummy and Danny Sutcliffe, savage men under the high ball, Dalo. They're getting, and Alan Nolan, who was playing that day, Sean Bennett and Alan Nolan, but Alan Nolan's playing that day, delivering top quality ball, catching ball, big Ronan Hayes inside. There's a physicality about Dublin, and I would agree with you, Dalo. I think Waterford, obviously, you know, like, first of all, Shawnee, I don't think Waterford are underdogs anymore or dark horses. I think I'd be fancying Waterford in the top three in the country at the moment in form with their top team. Themselves and Limerick particularly, I think, are very, very strong. So I think Waterford, there's a little bit of pressure on Waterford this year. And Liam coming back, obviously, is reinforcing a lot of faith in Waterford hurling, and it's a boost. But now Waterford have to produce the goods. And Liam and Mikey, you know, the Mikey Beavens, they will be under a little bit of pressure to produce results for Waterford this year. So that Dublin game is going to be interesting. But I think both leagues are nicely set up. You know, Cork, we didn't mention Johnny. I'm always onto Landers there. Where's Conor Lehan gone? But as you well know, he's back. And I heard he was absolutely on fire in that challenge game that you mentioned against Tipperary. So I think Cork are getting their ducks in a row. I think they're setting up very well. They have a good backroom team. You mentioned about Mull back in there, Furlong, Null back in. I think Cork are the team that could be gunning for a league victory to get a bit of confidence into the younger players. They now have the under-21 All-Irelands under their belts. They're coming in that situation that they can play at the top level. So I think it's going to be a very interesting league. And TJ's right. I think it's going to be ultra competitive. Teams will be out to stake a claim, and the games are going to be very attractive and very interesting. And I think, you know, there is a chance maybe to experiment a small bit, TJ, in some of the games. Some of the teams will take a chance, but you take the whole league setup. To get to a league semi-final would be absolutely outstanding. To lose a league final 2 weeks before you go into a round robin, I don't know. And the congestion of the league with the players, you mentioned amateur players, but it's the team that will have 25, 26 players that can play at top level. Ultimately, it will suit the stronger teams to have the strength and depth in their panels. Because unfortunately, I feel with the congestion of fixtures, there are going to be injuries picked up, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. And yeah, that was another Landers exclusive. He told us Conor Lehan was retired. That was another one of the classics. And 2 days later, it was confirmed he was back on the panel.
I one up and in with that one.
Just like I want to
out there, TJ. We could lose another high-profile.
Yeah, I won't do
game.
I won't do a Landers on it here.
Name names,
but name anybody. You know, I did hear that there could be 1 or 2 high-profile retirements during the weekend. Your neck of the woods, Ken. So we'll wait and see. But I think Dublin have definitely fired a warning shot the weekend. Dalo, to say dead ready for the league. To score 229 this time of the year against Wexford, it's a fair performance now. And I would say that they'll be looking, and definitely Matty, and given where he is in his management tenure, I think he will definitely be looking to make a statement in the league. And I just, like, from his point of view, Waterford first, and then they've Antrim after that, and then they play Tip in the 3rd game. I think that he'd be looking to kind of get points on the board and get into the top 2. The other side, Cork and Clare, as without Tony Kelly and Aidan McCarthy, it'll be interesting to see how Clare fare and can they get the scores to win these league games. So, like, Cork playing Clare at home, you'd nearly be fancying Cork to win there, and then Cork have
Mark Rogers.
Mark Rogers, he actually played very well for you, but they have off in the 2nd game, so they'll be looking to make a statement there. The Galway one is probably intriguing. The boys have definitely looked at a lot of players, but you're still going to probably see maybe a lot of the team, and they were very impressive in the league early doors last year. And I think maybe towards the end of the league, people were saying that Galway were the team best equipped physically and hurling wise to maybe tackle Limerick. So it'll be interesting to see how Henry gets on here. And you know, when you go through the team, and even talking to in the Mulder, he was in the car with me the weekend, and we were trying to pick the team for Galway. Like, still an awful lot of players there. Go to the forwards, like Conor Whelan, Brian Concannon, Niall Burke, Conor Cooney, Cathal Mannion, Pádraig Mannion, Evan Nyland, Joseph Cooney. A couple of really good young players there, and young McLean and Gavin Lee, Fintan Burke, Dahi Burke. Like, go to that Galway setup, right? It's the putting together of that. And I'm sure that those guys will want to make a statement in the league as well to say that they have a team to go to war with. But certainly going to be very interesting. If you were asking me to call it,
just on that, TJ, I watched UCG and UCD actually. It was being streamed, and the amount of Galway players that are there, like, you know, Keane obviously is a nice little throw in. Keane Lynch at Fitzgibbon level. He didn't break sweat, and he got about 5 points from play. You know? But like that, as you said, like when I was only going through there was a print off of the team on Twitter or something, and just there is a lot of players there.
Huge amount of players there, and I think was Kevin telling me there a couple of weeks ago that there's about 47 players in their books in terms of having a look at. So for Galway, it's just trying to put those pieces of the jigsaw together to find out who is ideally sits in where, and maybe agree a centre line to say, right, this is what we're going to go to war with in 2022. That's the challenge for those guys, but certainly interesting. And look, the new managements and new management teams and trying to get some sort of a foothold. I think Cork play Limerick in the 1st round of the championship on April 17th, which is Easter Sunday. I'd say, like, even though Cork like to have off the league, I'm not sure. Let's say there's a possibility of Limerick being in the league final. Would you like to play him in the league, claim in the league final, and then have him come in the 1st round of the championship? I don't know. We could get a bit cat and mousey towards the end of it.
Could you win it with your B team, TJ, like that you sent up tennis there last week? I mean, there was a half-back line there of Colin Coughlin, Ronan Connolly, and Paddy O'Loughlin. And I'd say any of the 3 of them would have been number 6 for Clare on the day, possibly, you know, or any county. There's some amount of talent there at the moment, like.
There is, and in fairness, we're in a fortunate position, but at the same time, like, I suppose, like, we would have great respect for all these teams that are playing, and like, no, the answer is with our second team, we wouldn't be good enough to win National Hurling League because there is serious competition here. I think, to be fair to the Limerick setup, they have the team playing in a way that when a guy comes into a position that they kind of slot in seamlessly and they're able to do a job. Like, but you do need those big players and those key players, and you'll see plenty of them throughout the league. So. I'm sure John will be having a cut off of this, and they'd like to win their games. And you know, they start with an away fixture against Wexford this weekend, which historically has never been an easy fixture. So you know, I'm sure they'll have the sights fixed and that, try and win the game, and then they've Galway in the Gaelic Grounds coming second. So yeah, plenty to look forward to, and interesting and great for supporters, as I said, to go to games.
Wexford with Dara taking over there, like, we wish him the best of luck as well. Good guy, great hurling family, and I suppose they were just reading a bit about the World Cup and looking at the highlights. it seems as if there's no sweeper now for the first time in 5 years, and there might take a bit of adjusting, you know, in the style of play, Ken, you know, that you are so used to the seventh man back there, and then all of a sudden Dara's putting his own stamp on it, playing different. Might take a bit of adjusting.
Yeah, take a bit of adjusting. Wexford are my dark horses to win the Leinster Championship, would you believe it, lads? I feel that coming off the Davy era, where they didn't produce the goods in the last couple of years, had a couple of great years with Davy and didn't play well. I think Paddy Foley coming back into the equation. I think the O'Connors is coming into the equation up front. I just think that Dara is a very smart manager. I think he's put a good backroom team together. Usually your first year, you know, is really the year that you can get that twist out of the players. And I think Wexford, you know, need to make a statement now at this stage. So I think that those games against Limerick coming down to play them, the sweeper situation, they could return to that very easily, because he'd be very forward-thinking manager, Dara Egan, and I think he will also know that Kevin Foley can play that game very easily. Sean Murphy, they can play that game very easily. It's just to get that consistency into their play, get playing up front. Remember, they were very close to beating, you know, Kilkenny last year in that game. It was a 1-point game where a ball went over the bar and just put back in the net and then just signalled a point. That was basically the difference. Wexford did everything by winning. So I'm expecting a good campaign from Wexford, and I think to start off against the, you know, which I think will be an experimental enough Limerick team. As TJ said, they're outstanding hurlers, but yet, you know, when it comes to league and championship fair, you know, you have to serve your apprenticeship as well. So I think there's some rippers of matches there coming up.
Yeah, and we haven't even really mentioned the Cats, and we know that Mr. Cody takes every game serious. So although they'll be down the Ballyhale lads for the first couple of games probably, but they'll still be Kilkenny. So we've Westmeath and Kerry down in Carlow, Kildare and Meath in 2A as well. And you know, lads, we've been so locked down for 2 years, even to see London, Lancashire and Warwickshire back in the National League as well. It's a sign that things are really lifting, and great games coming up the weekend, and we encourage people to get out and go to the games, I think, as well. It's great for us all. Obviously, lads, we hadn't the show last Monday, so we can give it much. We hadn't airtime to give it but the Fantasy Hurling League. I have my team in, and Ken, you won it last year, the championship, so I'll be keeping an eye on what you put up there later on the week. On Rua, lads, a great crack. We'll be having the mini league for Shawnee. I want the team in off, you know. We'll be having the mini league for the experts that are on here on a Monday.
You won't be bottom anyway, Shawnee. You won't be bottom.
Landers will be bottom, Shawnee.
Landers is always bottom.
So our listeners league and Butler Hurleys and Mourne Hurleys obviously will give us a few prizes there, and great old crack in that as well. Hopefully one of the Monday crew on this show can get into near the top of that. Can you give it a good rattle, all right, in fairness, Joe?
The challenge of the league is to see who's going to be playing, Dalo, who's going to play the game.
Yeah.
You could have a fella there, right? Obviously, who's the first 15 player, but he might play 3 games, which is a killer. Like,
yeah, I've seen a good few teams going in, and Tony Kelly at 11. I presume they're dummy teams, or they're not really up to speed with who's injured and who's not injured. You know.
Lastminute.com, I think.
Friday night. Yeah, and TJ, when you'd be having the family meeting, will you sitting down the selection committee there to pick the team?
To be fair, I have a couple of very good experts in my house. The two young fellas are very good. They'd normally be trying to keep their finger on the pulse as to who could be playing and who would get a couple of games here and there. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Although there was talk that they might branch out and put in their own team and put a challenge to me. So that'll just tell you where the house is at the moment.
The Ryan household.
The Ryan household, yeah. Exactly.
League, I should say.
I was just wondering tactically, Dale, are we going to see anything different? Is there anybody going to try something that we haven't seen before? And I was watching some of the NFL last night and just to see some of the different tactics and all those boys. How far away are we away from that, Shawnee? Where all the backroom team have an iPad and they're all hooked up with their microphone and they're all looking at the plays and all that. Jesus, mad. Because an awful lot of that NFL stuff trickles down to hurling in time. So
it does. And what's interesting, even TJ, like Dalo was on about the number of players playing fits a couple of years ago. Seanie McGrath got a bit of stick on the Sunday game about kind of mentioning about the intellectual ability of the modern players. But if you ever look at the pen pictures, the amount of fellas that are into the American football, the amount of hurlers, phenomenal. I know a load of fellas here, say Fraggy and the boys. So Hoggy's a huge Tom Brady fan. He loves the American football as well. So I think the modern player absolutely absorbs all that information, don't they? They almost they'll go looking for it, and in a weird way. Again, now this sounds like a complete old fart way I'm saying this now, but it's getting so advanced now as well, and it's starting to creep into the club game. I wonder, are there club guys that are almost a little bit reluctant to take on teams because are they getting this fear factor that, am I up to date with all this modern stuff? Am I up to date to the demands that the players are looking for? I just hope it doesn't get too far, too fast, too soon kind of thing, and doesn't deter from the real diehard just getting back in and getting involved in the club scene. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah, I came down for a quick pint last night, just the one, and two great sports experts, John Downs and Minnie Michael Minotor, and they told me that Cincinnati had no chance in the first one. So I don't know about all these tactics, Shawnee, but they can't. The underdog is in the final anyway, aren't they? And they have to go. Where's it? Los Angeles. The final is on, is it? And they have to go there and play them in the final. Right. It's some show. The whole thing, isn't it? It
is incredible. They do it in style, like in fairness.
They do. We're giving up the water breaks, and they're roaring for timeouts, and there's a flag on the play. It's unbelievable. That's coming near the end as well. So look, great stuff, lads. Great chat. I suppose I could do about 25 of these, but there's been a lot of tragedy that I've heard of, and that, but just obviously. To give our sympathy, I suppose, to the great Canning family in Porthum now, near enough to you there, Ken. Josephine, obviously, she reared some bunch of talented people, great family, and we offer them our condolences. Yeah. And just on a local level here, we lost a great old pal. We buried him on Friday. We lost him to the Atlantic last week, but thank God we got him back anyway. Paul Dillon, he played soccer with us here. He played football for the Shannon Gales, and it was a long week on everyone around the place. Everyone's a bit shook after it, but I suppose more so to Roisin and to his son Thomas and his daughter Aoife, just to reiterate my condolences and the show's condolences, and the wider Dillon and Vaughan family, great people, strong all week, and just not easy on everyone. So look, new week, and I suppose look, we drive on. We look forward to the action coming up. There's an All-Ireland Club final. There's the Allianz National League kicking off, not kicking off, thrown in, I should say. And we really look forward to that. And anything, TJ, have you anything? You usually have a Fogra fundraiser. JP Ryan was here from, pronounce it properly for me there, Tom Devine's club, Ken. You're the man for this now. Mondeligo, is it?
Mondeligo, Tom Devine, yeah.
Yeah.
Of Ireland's family fame as well.
Oh yeah, JP Ryan was here on Saturday evening for a couple of beers with his lovely wife, and they were staying in Ennis, but they came back for no drink with a great old chat. So he had me putting up retweeting a fundraiser that they're doing for the Camogie Club, I think there. So TJ, you definitely have one anyway before we go.
I will have one or two coming, because we have one or two big fundraisers coming in Garris Belandale, which I will be roping into at some point, but it's a bit early. What I will say is the weekend coming, there's great racing in Leopardstown. So I'm trying to choose between matches and trying to get to Leopardstown for a day and picking, massive weekend coming up. So I was just listening to the Leopardstown boys talking about the ground, which people are giving out about. And I heard the manager saying that between Christmas Day, I think, and this weekend, they got 3 millimeters of rain in Leopardstown, which was an all-time low. So I think the ball will be hopping this weekend, both in Leopardstown and in different places around the country. So plenty to look forward to.
We'll send him a text there and say, Ken Hogan said we're going to get a flood.
Shannon.
Just if I said it wrong there, lads, our sponsors for our listeners' league, Butlers Hurleys, obviously in Kilkenny, great people, always been great to us. So that's us. We did manage to ramble on for an hour and a half again, but great stuff, great to be back. And sure, I suppose we'll see you all again next week. Great stuff, lads. Thanks a million for coming on board with us, and hope everyone has a good Monday.
It's only the Allianz Leagues. It's only February. Only a warm-up. Only a relegation. Only a bit of fun. It's only a debut. Only hundreds of competitive matches and thousands of players giving it their all. Only an unstoppable passion for GA across the whole nation. It's only 30 years of Allianz supporting the leagues, and we're not done yet. Only the leagues, only the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer a whipping